Welcome to another episode of the Saddle Up Show with Shaad and Destin. I'm your host, Rashad McGinnis, my co-host, the Destin Adams. And the 4th of July had just passed, and I wanted to know how Destin celebrated it. So I purposely didn't ask him about it in the pregame. I waited until now. So Destin, tell me.
You wanted your reaction to be as genuine as possible, and that's what I appreciate about you, Shad.
Yeah, we care about authenticity a little bit.
Hey, we do around these parts. Um, for me, I mean, I spent it pretty chill. I had a
Mhm.
2 day. July 3rd was the bigger one. Went out to an air show near me. Got to watch some
Oh,
planes doing
wow.
some fun things. For those who got there early, where I was, they were giving free rides on a B-26 jet.
What?
Yeah, they were giving free rides for people out there at noon. I didn't go out there that early, but the weather was pretty nice 2 days ago, in that high 70s with a breeze, perfect nighttime weather. Yesterday was a little bit warmer for July 4th. And I mean, this may be a hot take or unpopular opinion. Fireworks are just like okay to me. Like they don't
Oh,
do they don't
you
do
think they
anything.
overrated?
They don't do much for me. I mean, I like going and having fun with like people and the
Mhm.
cookout atmosphere and chill, but like fireworks, I could live without them, especially when I have an almost 2 year old that I'm trying to get to sleep in his own bed and fireworks are going off all night long. I could definitely do without. They can get out.
Yeah, my son was terrified of them. A couple of the neighbors had them. I didn't buy any. I mean, I'm cool with it. I didn't seem to witness too many bad injuries due to fireworks with friends and family members. So I was good on that. I'm pretty sure as our kids get older, they might, have to scratch that itch. But there isn't any fireworks going on right now in the NFL. This is their time, and it does. When 4th of July comes around, it is a bit rewarding because you know that training camp is coming soon. You're officially in the month of July. I believe the Colts is July 25th. I know the training camp schedule was announced. And have you figured out what days are you going to be able to make it out there yet? Or are you still kind of
Uh,
planning?
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the plan is still to make it out there as much as possible.
Hmm.
So we're playing it by ear, but I'll announce that closer to time for sure.
Okay.
Um, the July 4th season is always good for family time, not great for sports. But the only real saving grace is the NBA free agency got here. We got to see that part of it come to life a little bit in the sports world. Had to put that up there by Patrick. But
I know I wanted to do the voice so bad, but go
hey,
ahead. I'm just not.
say sometimes you got to hold back. But
Yeah.
but NBA free agency came. Twitter decided to limit the amount of tweets you could look at during that time. So
That was Elon's, man. Elon tried to steal the shine away from the NBA, and I didn't
we
appreciate it in the slightest.
do you remember during Obama's presidency when the hashtag thanks Obama was like a big thing and there'd be like stickers they'd put on gas prices
Yep.
and all that stuff. So like that's like gone through each president since then. But like I remember it starting with
Hmm.
Obama. I feel like we need to get like a hashtag going every time Elon does something. We're just like thanks Elon. Just every time on Twitter, get that rolling. But that's how I felt when all these limited things were coming out. Is thanks Elon.
That was a mess, man. That's all you literally saw on the timeline. People panicking, wondering. The people that never saw it was wondering what tweet count was at, so they could figure out how many more tweets can they view before. Setting the tweet limit is crazy, and then
Hey, you got to
having to
ration, man.
expand
You
it,
got to
having to
ration.
expand it shortly after you just set the limit is even more ridiculous.
My favorite part about it was that the lowest limit was for recently unsubscribed Twitter Blue members. So
Yeah,
people that had Twitter Blue and decided to get rid of it had the least amount.
they
That I thought
dropped you under the people that never
I,
had it. Like,
I thought that was hilarious personally. Just petty, just the pettiness that's there. Um, but yeah, your rates were exceeded for a couple of days there. I tried to keep my tweets to a low. I didn't want to be taking up anybody's tweet counts.
mhm.
but had to take the holiday season off. But we're getting back to some real football. We've had some fun episodes here recently,
Yeah,
but I mean, if you know me and Shad, you know that like actual football analysis is kind of where our hearts are. So
exactly.
we've been grasping at straws to try to find stuff to be able to pull that out of us, but the time has come. We're in the month where training camp is going to begin. So we are going to be breaking down position groups for the Colts, and we're going to be starting with a couple pretty notable ones.
Yeah, and one of the ones that we're gonna start with, I seen Destin quote tweeted his IG story. We're going to talk about the running backs first. We'll get to the quarterbacks after. But starting out with Jonathan Taylor, a lot of people saw the quote tweet, and a couple of other people reposted it as well. Jonathan Taylor putting the eyes on his story. A lot of people think that's contract implications with that. Is that where you're leaning at, Destin, or do you think that Jonathan just having some fun?
So about 2-3 hours after those eyes, I saw that he posted like his little kids camp that was going to be happening. So it could have been about that. Seems like a little
Mm-hmm.
strange thing for that to
It
be
is
eye
a weird
emojis
rollout for the kids camp.
in 2023. The eye emoji is very selective in the
Yeah.
athletic world. You got to be really selective when you use it because it means a lot while meaning nothing at the same time. And I've heard all offseason that getting Jonathan Taylor extended is a priority for the club. So the Colts are working on that. There have been extension conversations, so that is something both sides
Yeah.
have interest in. So, I mean, my ideology on it, and I know that you've talked about it as well. Like, I think before week one rolls around, Jonathan Taylor is going to be extended. I think that deal gets done during that preseason time, hopefully earlier than what we saw Quentin Nelson's roll out to last
He
year, where
took
it
it
was
right to the deadline.
right before kickoff. I mean, Quentin Nelson was out there holding the ball for the kicker, waiting for that signature to come out still. But I think it's going to be a situation where this one gets resolved quicker. And from everything I've heard, I think both sides are pretty motivated to get it done.
Yes, I know they would like to probably move on to the Michael Pittman one as well. Not saying that they can't be working on both simultaneously, but it's tend to be one eight ball behind the other. And I'm sure there've been talks with Mike's camp about around the area of the number and the amount of years that they want to come in at. But it's just kind of good to get one knocked out the way so you can focus on the other one. I actually think both of them will get done before the season starts, but who knows the way it's going. But just talking about the running back room as a whole, let me ask you this: on a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you feel about the running back room? Not really count so much the back end guys, but pretty much the initial four, the big four that we're talking about. How do you feel about them?
So the big four, I'm assuming, are Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
Moss,
Mm-hmm.
Deion Jackson. I'll give the
Mm-hmm.
third spot for right now for being around longer, and then Evan Hull, the draft
Kevin
pick.
Hall. Yeah, correct.
So my bold take is not all four of those guys are going to make the roster, but we'll talk about that in
Okay.
We'll talk about that in a second. But
I think I know who you're trying to slide
hey,
in the spot.
we'll see. We'll see.
You've been tipping your hand on this for a while. I've been waiting for you
Hey,
to pull a take out.
I'm just
So,
saying.
so let's
I'm
do
just
it.
saying. But
Okay.
just saying overall, 1 to 10 on the group. I mean, whenever you have a top tier guy at the top,
Yeah.
the running back position is pretty similar to the tight end position there, where if you have a top tier guy, you're in good shape. If you don't have a top tier guy, usually the way the running game works in the NFL right now, you're somewhere in the middle. And then there's the small group of just flat out awful. And you don't want to be in that area. So you want to make sure you're in one of the two. But I feel like the Colts find themselves in that top tier reign of having a guy like Jonathan Taylor get that extension done. They're also lucky in this terms of in a world where paying running backs is not a good financial decision nowadays in the NFL. The only outlier to where teams can really maneuver it is when you have a rookie quarterback contract on the books. So the fact that the Colts are not going to have to pay Anthony Richardson top tier quarterback money for 5 years, and that is if this contract he proves himself to be a quarterback worth that next extension, then paying Jonathan Taylor really has no indication of it levels out. I mean, and the Colts roster is kind of full of leveling out where it's not really great when you're paying guards, but the Colts aren't paying tackles right now. So everything kind of they're lucky in the sense that it's kind of even out, even if they're going to be paying a little bit of unpremium position still. So I know a lot of people are in the don't pay running back camp, and I get it, but I do think the Colts are in a special situation where it kind of makes sense. And so 1 to 10, I'm gonna go at 8, just because of the top tier talent. But I think the unprovenness behind him is a little worrisome.
Yeah, I actually feel like I'm at about an 8, and it's only because I know people say, Naheem Hines wasn't utilized the correct way and he wasn't maximized when he was here. But I do think the room lost a bit of explosiveness to it, that he provided. He was a big play threat, whether you liked him or not. I don't think there's any guy on the roster currently that's as explosive as him. But I do think you have some more well-rounded guys. I like Deion Jackson a lot. He showed a lot at the end of last season. And Zach Moss was a guy who was essentially a throw-in for that Naheem Hines trade, has turned out to be a pretty solid backup. And he's had more success in his short time here than he ever had in Buffalo, period. So that's saying a lot about that guy. And I think Evan Hull is the guy that's probably going to be tasked with replacing Naheem Hines as far as a receiving back. Caught a lot of passes at Northwestern. He's not as explosive as Naheem was, but I do think he's a better runner between the tackles. And I do think he gives you a high floor as far as in the passing game. And having a back that can pick up the blitz on third downs. And, I know that's a lot of people's knock on Jonathan Taylor about getting top tier money because essentially on third downs, he hasn't been as good. Not saying he's a liability, but it just hasn't been a strong point. And the guys that's making the top of the line money at the running back position, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, are guys that really contribute on all three downs and don't have to come off the field necessarily. Guys that excel in pass protect and catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think altogether the room is really good. I actually think it's one of the better rooms in the NFL, to be honest. Probably a top 10 room altogether.
For sure.
And I think within Steichen's scheme, he'll utilize those guys to their strongest points. And I think they'll really complement this passing game. And they're going to be asked to do a lot with, especially if Anthony Richardson is the starter. That running back room is going to be leaned on heavily to kind of get this offense off the ground in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Hull is exciting in the sense of the proven pass catching ability, because I think that's a big part at the college game right now that you don't see a proven commodity in the pass game, because a lot of guys have, like Jonathan Taylor, even going into the draft process, people looked at him and said, can he catch the ball at the next level? Because at Wisconsin, he wasn't used that way. Because in college, still, there is a need at the running back spot that they're used more than at the NFL level right now. The running back spot is still very important in the college level compared to the NFL. So to have a guy like Evan Hull, who has such a proven commodity as a pass catcher right now, is a great addition that they were able to get on that day 3, and a really good draft that we were able to land in general in Indianapolis. And then when it comes to after that, I mean, I thought Zach Moss looked tough last year in given snaps. I mean, had opportunities to start some with Taylor's injury even. So I think Zach Moss has an opportunity to be a little bit of a third down guy here and there, have the ability to kind of take snaps when Taylor needs some off snaps, because I think the big part about extending Taylor is going to be the need to also not put as much effort on that ankle to where you see what happened last year happen again.
And yes, I want to say that because you touched on it briefly. I see Zach Moss' role kind of being the first, second down guy behind Jonathan Taylor, the primary guy that they go to behind Jonathan Taylor. And then I see the third down role being a battle between Deion Jackson and Evan Hull. Those two guys, because Deion Jackson showed a lot of versatility in the time that he was starting. He caught a lot of passes out the backfield. There's a couple of games he had over 100 total yards, period. And I think that was something that not a lot of people know he can do. And Steichen's offense is just look at it, compare it to last year with the Eagles. Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor will have the Miles Sanders role. If you notice, Miles Sanders didn't catch the ball a ton out of the backfield, hardly any receptions and yards. That was more of the Kenny Gainwell role, and he came in. They also had Boston Scott. I see this playing out very similar with Jonathan Taylor playing that Miles Sanders role, but being a bigger, faster, more explosive Miles Sanders, and Evan Hull or Deion Jackson, whoever wins the primary third down role. I see them being more of the Kenny Gainwell for the offense, and I think that's kind of a good way to view this room. But it can be a much better room than that Eagles room was last year.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And again, just going back to the fact of that top tier talent above Miles Sanders that Taylor has. Now, for the hot take part of this, before we move on to another
Let's
position.
get to it. I've been waiting. Let's get to it.
I don't think the four we mentioned are going to be the four that make the roster, because I think there's a sneaky guy here that has a little bit of ability as a receiver and a running back, has an extensive special teams background in the collegiate level, and that's the undrafted free agent Xavier Scott.
Didn't see that coming, man. I didn't see that coming.
If you follow me on Twitter, I've tweeted a good amount about the guy. I have. And when you look at his tape and just what he was able to do at the special teams level, like, it's just not something you normally see from a team's best player. Xavier Scott was the best player at Maine.
You didn't say which guy you have not making it.
I didn't. So personally, the guy I said earlier, even I said him third because he's been around, but Deion Jackson, I think, is a guy who has made the roster for special teams role in the past, and I think there's a good chance that you can probably get him into your practice squad if he doesn't make the roster. But I just think Xavier Scott has more to offer, and the fact of the matter is, and what I was touching on, is that Xavier Scott wasn't just like some special teams player at Maine. He was the best player at Maine, who also did not leave the field on special teams because he refused. Like, they looked at him as the best player, but he wanted to be out there in every facet and show what he can do and impact the game. And we had the pleasure of talking to him earlier this offseason when he makes the contract with the Colts right before rookie minicamp on this YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. But I really think Xavier Scott just has an ability as a pass catcher and just an overall weapon with the ball in his hand as a runner that you can almost keep him as that fourth running back, but it also almost makes it to where you can keep 5 receivers, but you have a sixth. Like, he's a guy that can line up out wide. He's a guy that can line up in the backfield. And I can see Shane Steichen's style of offense really liking a player like that.
Yes, we all know this is a league that's predicated on versatility. And I don't believe anybody that's fighting to make this roster is more versatile than him. I mean, look at the way this man used him. He literally lined up everywhere. I mean, special teams, wide receiver, X-wide receiver, Z, in a slot. Like, he was literally lined up everywhere in that offense. And he proved to be a really resourceful player. And I think he can be that at the next level as his floor. I think he does have some upside that he offers to the position, especially if you want to be as multiple as possible. You want to have guys that's interchangeable, guys you can send in motion, guys you can line up everywhere to create mismatches, because that's what Steichen is all about. Steichen is the type of coach, when he gets a mismatch, he will run the same play 2 and 3 times in a row and until the defense stops it. He's that type of coach. I know coaches that typically goes away from what's working. I know Frank Reich was criticized for that a ton. Things that worked, he tend to stray away from it. Steichen's not that. When he finds a mismatch, he's going to exploit it. As soon as he sees it, pre-snap, the look that he wants, the quarterback already know where to go with the football because they've went over this for several times. And this particular matchup that he wait for, Scott can be that type of guy if he finds a matchup he likes when he's inserted in the game. I look at him similar to, I'm blanking on this guy's name, the guy from Southern Miss. Didn't play a ton, but when he played, got the ball a lot. Smaller wide receiver 2 years ago. Blanking on his name. I'm going to look it up while Destin talks.
No, but I get it. I just can't stop thinking of just the ability to be able to use a guy like him. And you saw Boston Scott, who isn't used a ton in Philadelphia, but they find roles for him because of his versatility. And I think a guy like Xavier Scott can just come in right away, even if he's only impacting in the special
The
teams
Michael Harris.
ability. DeMichael Harris, the
Yeah.
man to wear number 12. No,
Yes.
can't forget DeMichael Harris. But
Yeah. I think Scott can be that type of piece.
I do. And also has the ability to probably be the best hair on the Colts day one.
Oh, Philip Lindsay's gone, right?
Oh, yeah. Philip Lindsay. I think he has better hair than Philip Lindsay day one.
Destin's so passionate about it, too.
I
You see,
am.
did
Hey,
you
these
see the
are
way
the things that matter.
sassy? You got sassy with me just now. I think he has better hair than. Okay, you might be right.
Patrick Rye, Xavier Scott is going to be this camp's Sterling Weatherford, and it's going to be all Destin's fault. Hey, Patrick, if you would have listened to me last year when me and Shaad were having the debates between JoJo Doman and Sterling Weatherford, and I was telling him that it was going to be JoJo Doman that made the roster, you wouldn't have had to get your heart broken because I was on here trying to prepare the masses. And JoJo Doman made the roster. So if last year the undrafted free agent I was banging the table for was JoJo Doman, and this year it's Xavier Scott. So
Who, I repeat,
take that
will
as you
not
will.
have a better career than Sterling Weatherford.
Just take that as you will. One for one right now on this. Let's see where we go after this. But yeah, that is my hot take at the running back room. I do think Xavier Scott makes the roster, and I think he has a better shot of making it at running back than he does at receiver.
Oh,
And
yeah, for sure.
I think his ability to play both opens the window to where you keep 4 running backs, but then you only really have to keep 5 receivers because that 4th running back in Xavier Scott is kind of a 6th receiver.
Yeah, and especially when the tight end room looks the way it looks, you kind of want to find different positions where you can trim at or get versatility, like we was talking about earlier. You got to find where you can cut certain positions. And if you can get a guy that has receiver and running back potential, even if it's a back end of the roster guy, you're more likely to keep that guy over a guy that's just a running back. If you can get 2 for the price of 1, basically, then that's pretty much a no-brainer for me. So do you want to get to quarterbacks? Let me see if is there anything. Is there any other question that we have to answer? Don't look like it. So, are you ready? Quarterbacks.
Quarterback. Just the topic of the offseason for the Colts. The topic of the last 1, 2, 3,
this is a
4,
bold
5,
take.
6.
Speaking of quarterbacks and running backs, this is a bold take. Just throw this up here before you say it.
Well, he can't lead the Colts in rushing in 2022, Jack.
Correct. That would be literally impossible.
If he could, that'd be pretty impressive. Now, there is a chance that he could lead the Colts in passing in 2022 somehow. Just because I don't want to even think about that again. So his 0 might be better than the negative that I felt about last year's pass attack.
Yes. Anthony Richardson, I think the conversation starts with him, when we talk about what we want to see from this position group. And I think this will be one of the most polarizing position battles, not just with the Colts, I think in the entire NFL. You probably can count on one hand how many position battles, because if I'm not mistaken, Bryce has already been named starter, right? Frank Wright came out and named him the starter, I believe.
He's at least moved in that spot on the depth chart, which is kind of funny to me because you come out and announce Andy Dalton as the starter, and then before training camp at all, you move him. To me, you should have just announced Bryce as a starter then. But hey, the NFL is a weird place when it comes to rookies starting, which I feel like needs to be the first conversation before we even get to the overall how we feel about the quarterback room. Over under Anthony Richardson starts. I'm gonna put the over under at 4.5. Do you go under or over?
I take the over by a mile. I take it by a mile. I think even if he doesn't start week 1, I think by week 8, week 9, he takes over. I think he'll start week 1, to be honest.
So you're taking the under?
I thought you said over or under. He starts 4.5 games.
Oh no,
That's
by week 4.5.
Oh, I thought you said he starts over 4.5 games.
Oh yeah, my bad. If I said it that way, that's on me. But no,
Yeah,
over
that's why I was
under
mentioning
on
over.
when his first start is. And I'm gonna put it at week 4.5.
So it'll be week 5. As long as he
Yeah.
starts before
If
week
you
5, he's
say
good.
over, then you're expecting week
Right.
5 or over. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm taking the under for sure. I'm taking the under. I think it'll be week 1. To be honest, I think they'll get to the point where the position battle, even if he doesn't clearly win it, I don't think the margin of that Minshew does beat him out by will be enough to where it makes sense to sit him. And I think eventually they just go with him. And when he came out and said that he needs to learn by going out there and do it, I think that spoke volumes. I think someone in the organization have told him that. I'm sure his trainers probably told him, and he's heard it all through, from the media and everybody. But he knows himself, and I'm sure he relayed that to the coaches. The coaches probably feel similar that this guy's not going to get better holding the clipboard. As long as he doesn't go out and look like a deer in headlights, similar to Malik Willis looked when he first started. As long as he doesn't look like that, I think they'll just take the lumps and the bruises and just put him out there. What are you thinking?
I think he starts week 1 too. I've been team. I think it's the smartest to start in week 1 for a while. I don't know if I thought the Colts would do it right away,
Right.
but everything I've heard is he has been very, very impressive off the field, which was the thing you can't see through the draft process all the time. They thought the kid was special as a person, but until you see him working every day on the clipboard in the rooms on Zoom, sometimes like until you see that, like you don't know until you get the guys in the room. So to me, I feel like he's going to end up starting week 1 because I think they already knew what the upside in his talent level was. But the part where we didn't know what it was getting in the room. And I think he's just impressed everyone he's been around. And I think Gardner Minshew is a guy that knows the offense and is going to be able to help Richardson get ahead further than people think. And I mean, Minshew didn't sign one of those deals when he came here with a stipulation of how many starts he gets how much he gets paid. Throwback to the Mitchell Trubisky contract with Pittsburgh last year. Throwback to Marcus Mariota's contract last year. Both had stipulations in it about starting, and Gardner Minshew doesn't have that. There isn't a nature to where he came here with an idea of I'm going to start this amount of games. I think he really is here because he loves the sport of football. I think he really enjoys Shane Steichen's offense, and I just think there's an expectation that if they go into camp and Richardson seems that he's further ahead mentally than maybe some thought he was, then what's the problem just rolling him out day one? You might be muted, Shad.
I pulled the Destin. Oh my God.
Hey, it happens to the best of us. And I just want to say that I love that it wasn't me this time. Shout out to the real Mr. Colt, backup quarterback, the greatest job in sports. I'm with
I
you.
agree. I
I'm with
agree.
you. I would do it.
And another reason why I think Anthony Richardson gets the nod is because as far ahead of him as Minshew is, as far as knowing the scheme and knowing the playbook and knowing Steichen's offense, period, I think Anthony has that same advantage on him as far as leading a rushing attack. Anthony Richardson raises the floor of this offense. Might have a limited ceiling because of who he is as a passer and him learning on the job as far as being a processor and setting protections. There's so many elements that he just has to get down mentally that I think he's far ahead of schedule on. But he raises the floor of this rushing attack. And I think this rushing attack is going to give the Colts the best chance to win on a Sunday to Sunday basis because that's the thing they're going to be able to hang their hat on. With Gardner Minshew starting, you're not really going to be able to hang your hat on anything as far as I know game in and game out, we're going to be able to do this. Now, Gardner may be a little safer with the football, probably less volatile than Richardson will be, but I think Richardson, what he can do in the ground game as far as The lighter the boxes are getting with these defenses in the NFL, the more numbers matter in the run game on offense. And that's what Anthony Richardson does. He flips the map for you in your favor. And I think the way Steichen schemes up the run in the run game, we saw it last year with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles backfield, extremely productive. I think the Colts will be the same type of threat. I think he's going to keep it really simple. And, when teams load up the boxes, I think Anthony's going to take his shots with Alec Pierce and Pittman on the outside and give them the one-on-one opportunities. And that's pretty much going to be the basis of this offense, real basic in the beginning. Keeping it simple for Anthony Richardson, but allowing him to utilize his best asset as of right now, which is his legs. And that's until his mind and his arm catches up with him.
Yeah, and then Jack brings up the point. I just don't see it. At the end of the day, he's still a project, and rushing him might not be the best for his mental development. Minshew is way better than any backup quarterback the Colts have had in a while. I agree. I think the Colts probably feel more comfortable letting a Minshew play than they have in recent years of backups they've had. Even Nick Foles over the past couple of years, I think they would have more trust in what Minshew has and what he did in Philadelphia even last year. I think the aspect where I disagree a little bit is I think the area where rushing a rookie quarterback in that is troublesome is when they're not ready mentally when it comes to the game speed and being prepared for what you have to do in the pocket. Shaw brought up a really good example in Malik Willis last year. Malik Willis looked like a deer in headlights at times because he just would not throw the ball. To go in 3 starts last year and not throw over 100 yards in those 3 starts, that's a stat. And there's other quarterbacks in years past
That's
where
a stat.
that's a stat. That's all I gotta say. That's a stat.
It is a stat.
And this guy had a more exciting second year, but started early on, gets benched, and then had to go back and forth because of some early woes in Justin Fields 2 years ago. And it was the same situation where you trotted him out there. He had a nervousness to throw the ball, so he used his legs. Now, I think the difference between those two guys, who both are mobile quarterbacks, is Anthony Richardson did not show a shyness of throwing the football in college. He didn't show a reliance on his legs to where he just wouldn't throw the ball. He's a special athlete, but I think if you talk to his coaches and teammates at Florida, they wanted him to abandon the pocket and run more than he did. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where he comes in and is going to be nervous to stay in the pocket and make throws. Now, I think the situation that may happen is as he's on these learning curves, you see interceptions. Fans don't like interceptions. I get that. Personally, I think the interception for young quarterbacks is a little bit overrated because I'd rather my quarterback throw interceptions early and show the capability of taking shots down the field than not attempting to throw down the field. Peyton Manning has the interception record for a rookie still. His career ended up okay, I'd say. Andrew Luck, I know we got to put a disclaimer on this episode now, threw interceptions early on in his career that did not seem to halt his ability to progress mentally through the game in the NFL. So if Anthony Richardson comes in and leads rookies in interceptions, I'm really not all that concerned with it, is because to me that shows at least the nature to take shots down the field. Now, not all interceptions are built the same.
I was about to say that.
That's
That's
a
my point
quote.
too. Yeah.
That's a quote that I like to use because bad decisions are bad decisions. But to me, throwing an interception in a 2-minute drill down when you're down 5, having to make a play on 3rd down, I don't care. What's the difference between throwing that interception and having to punt? I just don't see. I don't think it matters. Turnover on down. So to me, it's just all about how those interceptions happen. So I don't want to see any left-handed interceptions to an Aaron Donald in the in the red zone by any means. Not to throw it back too far, but
Boy.
I think throwing interceptions downfield as a rookie is just a part of it when you have a quarterback that's going to push the ball down the field.
In Carson Wentz's defense, that Rams team won the Super Bowl.
I don't know if that does anything.
It's the only defense I have to you. Sorry, Carson. Sorry, man. Okay, let me answer this real quick, and then we can talk about Sam Ehlinger and what this means for him. Shaad, what's more likely? Pittman gets extended for less than $20 million a year, or JT gets extended for more than 30? That's a tough freaking question. I think it's more likely that Pittman gets under 20 than JT gets extended for. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pittman getting.
You don't think JT gets more than 13 a year?
Oh, I thought I said it's less likely that Pittman gets.
No, the question was what's more likely.
Oh well, it's JT. It's JT getting extended.
I
For
would say
13.
I don't even think it's close. I mean, I think
Yeah.
JT is going to reset the market. The years when
I
it's going to
think
be the
Pittman
interesting
gets
one to
22 though. I think Pittman
I do.
gets 20.
I mean, it's just how the market works.
I know.
If you're even a fringe top 20, 15 guy at a position like that, for especially at receiver, you're gonna make in that top 5 realm. That's just how the market works. And then running back wise, any top tier running back that takes a discount right now is getting chewed out by the NFLPA because the NFLPA needs running back contracts to improve. They need it right now because it's bad. This second contract wave that's happening in the NFL for running backs. And the Colts are in a situation to pay Jonathan Taylor. He knows that. I don't know if it's going to be the largest running back contract in totality, but I could see it being the largest per year contract over a 3 to 4 year basis.
And the player I always come back to, we talk about contract for Pittman, and this was last year or maybe even the offseason before that. But Deontay Johnson signed the extension for around $18 million a year. That's Deontay Johnson, a guy who only has 1,000-yard season, at the time, and he got 18. So when people say Pittman isn't worth 20, Pittman's going to get 20. Like, I'm telling you, you can brace yourself for it now. Prepare, let out your screams, get it all out your system. Pittman will get $20 million a year, at least. And I think Jonathan will get 13. I think he'll be right around there, though. I don't think he'll get the 15 that McCaffrey's getting. I don't think he'll get that high. But if Derrick Henry's getting 12, which I believe it is, I think JT's going to come in around that number, 12, 13. Maybe,
I think he
maybe
gets
even
over,
14.
I think he gets more annually than McCaffrey did.
So you think he resets the market?
I think he resets it in the annual basis. I don't think he resets it in a totality basis, but I think he gets
You think
the largest.
He resets the annual? I don't.
I do. I think he gets the largest per year annual contract. I just don't think it's going to be a 5-6 year deal. Like I think it's probably going to be a 3-4. Which if it's a 3-4 year, even if it's a 5 year, like you're technically getting off that second contract of Taylor before you pay Richardson.
So you're saying like 5 years, 16 a year?
I mean, I could see it, but I really think a 4-year deal is what I think happens.
I think he gets 13. I think it's 13 in that area. I don't think he resets the market though. I don't think he becomes the highest paid running back.
Okay, we'll see what happens, but I think he does.
Not for a guy that doesn't give you anything on in the passing game. If he was a good receiver, or even good in pass protection, that's really my biggest thing. I think he can catch the ball, but his pass pro hasn't been up to par. That's my deal.
Whose deal gets done first? I think JT. we kind of talked about it earlier, but
I think it's JT.
I think JT is definitely the focus right now.
I think it's soon, dude.
I do too.
I don't want to put a date, but I have a week in my mind right now. I think it's that.
I think it does too. I've been saying I think it's before the Colts take that first snap of week 1. I think the extension's done. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think JT is definitely the one who gets done first. I think that's who they are focusing on first, which every team does that. I mean, you always have to prioritize your negotiations so you can focus on that negotiation. We saw it with Quentin Nelson, Shaquille Leonard. We saw it like we've seen it multiple times. And obviously the 5th year helps them pick Shaquille Leonard first, but it's just usually how things work. You have to prioritize. So we'll see how it all works out for Taylor, but I think we should expect that he's wearing the blue and white for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, well, the first deal the Colts have to get done is that so he'll sign.
There's a lot of first-round picks that haven't signed yet.
Yeah.
They've just been focusing other places. When training camp gets here and gets started,
I wink twice.
When training camp gets started, I think we'll see all of the rest of the Colts picks get done.
Yeah.
If there was a situation of an actual holdout, I mean, the last notable one being like a Joey Bosa, where it was a legit holdout for a first round rookie contract, and he didn't participate at rookie minicamp. He didn't participate until that contract was signed. Anthony Richardson has been in the building every chance he's allowed to be in the building. They have literally had to kick him out because the NFL doesn't let rookies in the building during certain days, to where he was not there. So this is not a situation where there's a holdout going on. Lots of first round picks have yet to sign. Multiple, I believe Bryce Young is the only first round quarterback to sign. He may not even have signed yet. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it. But not to say he has or hasn't. I haven't been checking for it, but it hasn't came across my radar. Destin, before we get out of here and close out quarterbacks, do you think Sam Ehlinger makes the active roster?
I hate 3 quarterbacks on the roster, but with the new NFL rule that if you have a third quarterback on the roster, that you are able to dress
emergency quarterback
without them counting toward your active day roster quota, every team's going to hold 3 quarterbacks. Like that's just going to be the new reality, which sucks because I hate keeping 3 quarterbacks. Like I just don't think it's necessary.
Even if it doesn't take up a roster spot?
Well, it does, but it does take up a 53 roster spot. It just doesn't take up a game day roster spot because you're allowed to dress 48 on game days. So that's 5 people, but now you are allowed to technically dress 49 if that third quarterback is on the active roster and you're not calling it up from the practice squad. So because that new rule is in place, I think it'd be malpractice decision making after seeing what happened. And now I understand the world was different during the COVID pandemic and the COVID rules that the NFL had going on. But seeing what happened to Denver that year, where the quarterback room was entirely wiped out and a receiver had to play quarterback, a guy who played quarterback in college, I get it. But to see what happened in that situation, that's why this rule gets put into place so that doesn't ever happen again. But and you saw the Brock Purdy situation last year where they didn't have an active quarterback that they could go to on the roster to play in the playoffs, and the NFL doesn't want that to happen again. So that third quarterback situation, I think it just makes sense. Now, will it be Ehlinger? Will they have another camp arm that impresses and takes the job? I don't know. I mean, Ehlinger doesn't have a leg up in the sense anymore because of Reich being gone and it being a new system. And I just don't see how Sam Ehlinger works in a vertical style offense, because Sam Ehlinger seems like a great guy. He does.
Destin always says that before he hammers you. Just start.
But I mean, only if you seem like a great guy, though. If you don't seem like a great guy, I won't caveat it. But Sam definitely seems like a guy who has his head on the right way. He just struggles to push the ball down the field. When he's throwing past that 15-yard marker, usually you see bad things happen. And that's just not something that I think will work in a Shane Steichen offense, even as an emergency style quarterback. But I mean, the guy is special mentally, and I think he works the right way, and I think he does the right things, and I think teammates love him. So I could definitely see it being him, but I think every NFL team is going to have a third quarterback going forward.
Yeah, I pretty much penciled him in. Haven't wrote it in ink yet, but with the new rule change, I think he's pretty much a lock to make it. Just because I don't see another guy currently that can threaten that position, another guy, I would have maybe been inquiring a little more about it if Steichen would have bought somebody from Philadelphia, a guy he has history with, to challenge Ehlinger in that third quarterback spot. But I don't know. I think it's going to be his to lose. And unless he goes out there and completely stinks it up and blows it in preseason, training camp preseason, then I think he'll be fine. Is there anything else? Oh, I got Drake hit us with a question right quick. Get hit on this. You guys think that the running back contracts will bounce back? I guess there would need to be more C-Max or JTs in the league, right? Need more superstar running backs. I actually think Bijan is a good example of a guy that could help bring the running back market back, because he's a guy that's such a threat on third downs as a receiver, a guy that can actually split out and line up in the slot and run actual routes, option routes, slants, take you vertical. He's a guy that did it all at Texas, and I think he's the type of running back that can actually trend running backs in a better direction. You get some guys that's not just first and second down guys, because those guys will always be just limited, as far as where you can find those type of guys. Look at anytime you get a team like Kansas City with Isaiah Pacheco, a guy that was late round pick, comes in, contributes right away, and helps his team win a Super Bowl. Those guys, you find those guys so much. But a difference maker, a guy like John, who can be special, as long as he shows that what exactly is the thing that separates him from those type of guys that you can just find, anywhere. As long as he shows that the ability to diversify himself from that, then I think you can start to establish a market again for the running back position.
Yeah, I mean, I think the top part of the running back market is not going to dip as much as I think people think it is, just because I think those special tier guys are going to keep getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the part of the running back market that I don't know if it's ever going to recover is that middle to low end running back contracts where any running back that hits the market that's not some star-studded guy is getting that mid 1 year $4 million type contract where you see receivers get paid 3 year $25 million, getting like these kind of contracts. I don't think the mid running back market is going to be able to get there just because of the way the NFL is moving and the priorities that they're set, and the teams that have the top tier quarterbacks, like they're not going to be able to spend on those big name running backs going forward.
Like when you just think about the type of running backs that's available right now, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, Mark Ingram. It's quality guys that's just not finding places to play because the value of the position right now is just at an all-time low as far as those type Destin was alluded to. You can find a guy that can give you the same type of production as those guys in the back on day 3 of the draft. You can pay a guy the minimum for 3 or 4 years before you even think about having to pay this guy again, which you're probably not. And then you let that guy walk, and guess what? You just do it again.
You're just gonna see teams keep taking stabs on day 3, even if they have running backs.
Right.
Like you're just gonna keep seeing teams take those stabs because once you hit on that, you reset the years that you have to push on taking another running back.
Yep.
So like that's just the smart way that business is moving in the NFL right now. Outside of when you stumble upon a special talent that they look at it and you're like, man, this is a special football player, no matter the position you put next to his name.
Yep, I agree, man. Well, that's it. That's gonna wrap this episode up. But we are doing a new series. We're now into it. Where we're going to be previewing position rooms. We did quarterback and running back today. Destin, how you feel about wide receiver, tight end next week, or offensive line, receiver? How you feel?
I mean, everyone's talking about tight ends right now, so I feel like including tight ends is probably the right call.
Let's do wide receiver, tight end. So, you guys be back next week when we discuss the wide receivers and the tight ends as we get a little bit closer to training camp. I believe we're 3 weeks away. It's going to be here before you know it, and we can't wait because that's when we'll have some awesome content for you guys. But we appreciate y'all for tapping in. We will see y'all next week. Peace.